Welcome to the Trueface Podcast. My name's Robby and I'll be your guide as we have conversations about what we can learn from what's going on in our lives. Most of us get stuck in our relationships with God and others, and we end up wondering, is this really all there is to it? Here's a question. What if God isn't who you think he is, and neither are you? The grace-based relational discipleship resources at trueface.org help you answer that, to help you live into your true identity. And this podcast at the end of the year, right before Christmas, 2023, is going to be a little bit different. On this podcast, I wanted to celebrate answered prayers with y'all. I wanted to update you on how I have seen God show up in 2023 and what we as a team are expectant for in 2024 through Trueface. I'm going to be filling you in on some new updates and insights for you to be praying with us about. And so this is kind of like a family meeting podcast, but not like the bad family meetings that my kids dread of like, let's circle up and talk about it. But this is like a celebratory gathering of friends to just worship and praise God for what he's done. And with that, I get to start just by saying thank you for your encouragement, your engagement, your prayers as part of the broader Trueface tribe and your support. I've been in this role for about 4.5 years, and we're in the 29th year as a ministry. And it's amazing how God continues to expand this good news of grace to more people in new ways, and some of which we had no idea of or didn't plan for, but God just keeps opening doors. And it's just fun to celebrate that and to meditate on the answered prayers as we wrap up this year. So as we enter into the last week of the year, that's my hope for all of us, that we spend a few minutes celebrating and worshiping God, and also for y'all over the next week, and for myself, that we get to spend the last week of this year being present with our families, that we get to rest, that we get to meditate on the life of Jesus, that we get to celebrate and reflect on the goodness of God in our lives. And that's my hope for all of y'all listening to this. And I want to begin by doing that with you and celebrate how many prayers God has answered. I had some guys over to my house last week, and we were doing a check-in thing where we just, up to 2 minutes, shared what we were thankful for. And it felt worshipful. It felt like we were just meditating and thinking about and pondering the goodness of God through gratitude. And so thanks for letting me do that with y'all as we wrap up the year and give you some sneak peek insider stuff as to what we're doing and what God is bringing our way, that a lot of y'all are a part of making happen. So 2023 has been pretty busy. I'm gonna drop you a couple bullet points, go through the year in my head of some standouts. In March, the Trueface Life app launched, which was a ton of work. Monique on our team did a ton of work to launch that and grow it. In May, we launched a masterclass with Right Now Media, and on the Trueface Life app, we did this masterclass to help serve churches to develop a leader pipeline in their church to have more effective discipleship. We had a Trueface Conversation launch when I don't have the date for that on hand, but it was early fall with Michael Cusick. I think it was September. And this Trueface Conversation, Breaking Your Cycle with Michael Cusick, was just one of the highlights for me, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But then in October, we had our first retreat in years together. 150 of us gathered in Asheville, North Carolina, and it was special. And then in December, just a few weeks ago, we launched a new website, which Michael on our team and Lana had worked so hard on. And also a couple weeks ago, one of the highlights of the year for me is that we hired an operations guy, a COO type guy, because some of you know that I'm more on the visionary side. I'm not great with the operations, and as we've grown the team is like, bro, you need some better stability and leadership in some ways. And so Chad Clemens joined our team. He had been a key part of leading a network of churches. He had started a couple churches. I'm going to have him on the podcast next year so you can meet him, but he's already been a gift to this team. And before I unpack some of those and the details and talk about what we're up to next year, I wanted to share with you why we're doing all those things I just listed. And this is an internal language that we use, but the internal why for us is to catalyze a movement where tens of thousands of communities of grace lead to us hearing over 2,500 stories of people experiencing God's love and loving others in a noticeably different way. And our prayers that this happens by 2030. So it's to catalyze a movement where tens of thousands of communities of grace lead us to hearing stories of people experiencing God's love and loving others in a noticeably different way. That is why we do what we do. Here are a couple of those stories. And I'm just going to reflect on 4 or 5 of them. And these are coming in all the time, which is why a lot of you have invested in this ministry to keep it going now in its 29th year from, when Bill and Bruce originally founded this thing in 94, and then John came on probably 15 years ago. So one person said, the material that we go through in the Trueface journey truly makes you stop and examine your walk with Jesus. I chose to leave a job and take another position with a different nonprofit because of our exercise on the areas we trust God. It really, really challenged me to take a hard look at my lack of trust. This has been awesome. Another person said, I'm learning to trust God more with my life and continuing to see the need to have others as part of my community as I seek to follow God more. Here's another. I led a women's Bible study for 10 weeks, and we read The Cure together. Many of the women had been doing Bible studies for years and said this was the best book they'd ever read. They keep giving it out to friends, and many women had significant impact on their view of God and themselves through it. One more. After going through the Trueface journey, the word that comes to mind when I think about how I've trusted God or others differently is the word relax. The pressure is off to do whatever for God or to God. I do things out of a response of the fact that He first loved me. I can also trust God with others, so it eliminates over-functioning on my part. I can enjoy myself and others more. That is the peace and the freedom of the original good news of grace. And moving that from knowing about it in our heads to our heart is what leads to the peace and freedom that Jesus made possible. And that is maturity and formation, and that takes us a lifetime to mature into, which is the gift of growth and grace anew every day. And that's what we get to be a part of as Jesus followers. And we do that together as God's designed us to grow through the context of relationships. But doing that together is difficult. And so these tools, this toolbox of resources is our hope is that it equips and catalyzes y'all as carriers of this message to experience little pockets of grace, little rooms of grace all over the world. So I want to unpack a little bit more some of the celebratory things of 2023. The app that launched in March, over 2,800 people are using that thing as the Trust for Today devotional is showing up every day in there for people. There's conversations happening. Vic Woodward was dialoguing with somebody in a pastoral moment and building community, which was just awesome that I saw the other day. When it comes to these small group studies and these resources, Right Now Media has been a gift in partnership. So we have 5 small group studies and a masterclass on Right Now Media. And over the past couple years, over 100,000 viewers have checked out these studies and processed this news of grace. And that wouldn't have been possible without y'all. This is all a new avenue of this message reaching new people, which is super exciting. This year alone, there's been over 50,000 views of our studies and over 150,000 views all time. And the 2023 addition to that toolbox was the masterclass, How to Build a Leader Development Pipeline in Your Church, because a lot of churches are struggling with quality and quantity of leaders to lead their groups, which is a key area for discipleship and formation to happen. And the quality of that group is connected to the quality of the leader, and they don't have enough and they don't have strong leaders. And so we processed with them the ministry philosophy of grace and the best practices to create a pipeline for developing leaders. And our tool to serve them is the Trueface Journey. It's a 9-month group discipleship initiative, and the stories of that have been amazing. I wrapped up my group earlier in the year. I'm starting another one in February, and it's for men, women, couples, and over 30 groups have launched this year. I could not recommend that more. If you're wanting to pour your cup into somebody next year, if you're thinking, man, I want to pour my cup into a group, I just don't know who and how to do it, go to the Trueface Life app, check out the training, the resources to equip you to lead a Trueface journey, either through your church or individually, for men, women, or couples. You would pick a co-leader, and we just make it easy for you to invest in 7 or 8 guys or girls, or 3 to 4 couples. We also launched my favorite study of the year called Breaking Your Cycle. This is a Trueface conversation, just like Beyond the Mask, which is a set of 6 conversations to walk with one other person through an addiction. And Michael Cusick is one of the best thinkers. He's a therapist and founder of Restoring the Soul, and he's one of the best thinkers out there. So we had a conversation of how to walk with somebody through an addiction or an unwanted behavior, eating, drinking, pornography, whatever that is, how to walk with them through a lens of grace and not sin management or accountability, which a lot of us go to when it comes to addictions. We also had the retreat, which for those of you who are there, the survey said pretty much everybody was surprised. One story we heard was, I was honored to be a part of the first Trueface retreat. To say that it was beyond what I'd hoped for is an understatement. The truths I was reminded of this weekend have taken hold of my heart yet again, and I am undone. I feel so full, like I can't contain the good that God has shown me, like I'm overflowing with His grace. Melody from South Carolina, shout out and thank you for that feedback, because it echoed what a lot of us felt. It echoed what I felt. And then December came along pretty quickly, and it's been a sprint to the year end. We got the new website launched. Check it out at trueface.org. And Chad joined the team, Chad Clemens, a couple weeks ago, and he's already had such an impact on this team. So the Trueface Journey's launching. There's a story, that there was a quote from somebody that said, that launched a new Trueface Journey group. This couple's in their 30s. Isaac said, marriages were saved, my marriage improved, revelations about oneself and others increased for everybody in the group. The youngest couple were just married and feel that God perfectly placed them in this group at the right time. It's been a beautiful, spirit-filled journey. Isaac in Kansas shared that, and that is our hope. That's why we build these tools. That's why you invest in this ministry, to help this good news of grace transfer through these relational pockets to change lives, to change marriages. And we couldn't do it without you. A couple more random stuff. The podcast has grown because of y'all. We've had over 75,000 downloads this year alone. And a couple of you watched this on YouTube, and we hit over 6,000 subscribers there. The Cure is in all kinds of correctional facilities as of this year. It's in over 370 different prisons across the U.S. And this year alone, some of y'all don't know that some of the stuff we get to be a part of, but over 1,400 inmates have started reading The Cure. And so as we reflect back, I just want to say thank you. And I want to say thank you, Father. You have answered prayers, and it feels like we're just getting going. Like the soil is being tilled for some kingdom impact that we would ask y'all to pray alongside of us with, that He exceeds our expectations in the years ahead. we have a couple things we're working on in a big way that are coming out next year. First of all, some of you have asked for a Spanish version of The Cure. So we have been working on La Cura as a Spanish translation of The Cure in print, in a book that you can buy and read, not a digital download, and that's going to be coming out. Our team has been working for about a year and a half on a major book project called The Path. The tagline of The Path is, what if this way of following Jesus isn't what you think it is? We are thinking about a 25-year-old in mind. What would we hope a 25-year-old would know about grace? What would we want them to know about this way of following Jesus before they get sucked into the pressures of religion or the way of the law of doing or earning or striving? Like, what if they could get grace? What if we got grace early enough? So we're writing with a 25-year-old in mind, and it is a major project. It's allegorical, similar to The Cure. It's going to be a story book with a little bit of teaching at the end of the chapters, and that's really hard to do well. And we've got a group of readers right now reading the first version, a beta, to give us feedback, and their feedback has been really encouraging. Another project that's going to take the majority of the year is this entire suite of resources to serve churches. We're calling it small group strategy, but we're building a one-stop landing page spot for all things adult ministry discipleship in the local church. We want to partner with local churches to move the needle on discipleship. We all know a lot of churches struggle with what they're doing for discipleship or spiritual formation for their adults and how they're doing it. And we think it's not a problem with the strategy or the small group strategy or the approach or the model. Most churches focus 80% of their time on, we got to get a better strategy or model for small groups, but that's really 20% of the equation. The 80% that makes the most difference is the environment, the ministry philosophy underpinning whatever strategy or model they do. I've seen all kinds of strategies and models work, but the differentiator in churches that have a healthy discipleship culture is rooted in a culture of grace, a ministry environment that is the fertile soil for people to grow. And so creating a suite of resources, we've got a long list of resources that we're going to be building to serve churches, to equip them to create a healthy ministry philosophy and environment, and then launch their strategy in that, which is hard, heavy lifting. And we think it's going to be a game changer for hopefully thousands of churches in their discipleship efforts, because that's what we need, and it's what the next generation, is looking for. And as we enter 2024, I would just ask for y'all to continue to pray for these things. We could not do this without you. We're a donor-driven ministry, so thank you to some of y'all. I got a surprise gift. Trueface got a surprise gift from a donor for $10,000 out of the blue. And those type gifts are what keep us alive and keep us afloat. And some of you thought, well, I can't do that. It is the $50 that came in last week from a first-time donor. It's the people signing up for $50, $100 a month as wayfinders. We have less than 300 donors that make all of this happen. And so if you are prayerfully considering where to steward the money that God has given you to have kingdom impact, I commit to you that if your heart is to help people understand and experience these communities of grace and to move the needle on discipleship for churches, I would go to the mat that Trueface is pound for pound one of the most effective ministries to invest in for kingdom impact, because we're lean and we're small and we're going after some big hits. So I invest in this ministry, and I'm confident in how God is multiplying that investment. So I would ask y'all directly to please prayerfully consider partnering with us as an investor in this ministry. And it's a good time to do that, the year end, for all the tax reasons and the other reasons, and just to wrap up the year with gratitude for our Father and what he's done in our lives as he's provided for all of us, and the ministries we get to be a part of, and the stories that we're hearing. Thank you for those of you who have made all this possible. And we're going to start off 2024 with a little bit of a new tradition. The past year, maybe two, we've launched the podcast with my buddy Benj Miller, as we have a conversation about our heart going into the new year. So that's the next podcast. Thank you for your prayers and support of Trueface, and I hope y'all have a great Christmas. See ya.